All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Zooming into Success, part of the Chamber Collective, our Bonnie Lake, Tahale, and Lakeland Chamber group here in Washington State. My name is Dr. Danielle Lord. I am your hostess and presenter today. So welcome in, and we're going to jump right into it and begin with our strategic planning and SMART goals session. All right, so if I can get some cooperation here technologically. All right, so here's what we're going to cover today. What is the purpose of a strategic goal and strategic goal settings, kind of in that strategic planning space, the strategic framework, SMART goals, and next steps. So those are just a few of the things that we'll be covering today. So I'm joined by Charity, part of our team here, and so feel free to jump in and ask questions if they come up, Charity. Great. And we'll dive right in.
Thank you.
All right, so what is a strategic plan? It is a living, breathing document that really is about creating not only just goals for your organization, but really a direction or a roadmap that's aligned with your organization's mission, vision, and values. So we implement strategies throughout our entire operational areas, and we measure and evaluate for success or redirection. So that's what it is. And when I say it's a living, breathing document, I mean that it should not be set aside in someone's office, never to be seen again. It kind of needs constant review, but it also needs to be shared broadly within your organization. And so I have worked with, I don't see this as much in the corporate sector, but in kind of the smaller, medium-sized businesses, it's kind of seen as this item that has to be kept close to the vest and never shared with anybody. And so therefore the team members within the organization literally don't know what it is that they're supposed to be working towards. And so we're going to be talking through how to implement some of those things. So it's not to be put on a shelf and ignored. It's not part of the Secret Squirrel Club. It should be shared broadly within your organization. And it doesn't have to be some big fancy schmancy thing. I think oftentimes when we think about a strategic plan, we think about binders and tabs and tables and graphs and all kinds of things that make it seem kind of intimidating, rather than just a document that says, this is our roadmap and this is the sheet of music that we're all going to be working from. And so it's, the other thing is that don't ignore it. Get it out and live it, and make sure that you're working towards your strategic goals, because those are the things that you've identified that are going to make you successful.
And a strategic plan, would you normally say those are broken into sort of timelines for your goals? Is that part of your sort of SMART framework that you're working towards?
Yeah, great question. I think most strategic plans have kind of a 1, 3, and 5 year kind of time frame around them. And then as you drill down and work towards your SMART goals, your goals are something that should be annual goals. And so those need to be looked at and addressed and assessed every year as well. So great question, and we'll definitely get there. But first, let's kind of unpack some definitions. Did that answer the question, Charity?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some definitions that are kind of common to strategic planning. The first one is mission and vision statement. And sometimes I'm giving you definitions based on what was part of my educational background, as well as some of the things that I've seen operationalized in the corporate sector. So anyone listening within the audience might say, oh, I heard it was defined differently. And that's okay, because some organizations may define them slightly differently, but they all kind of make up the document and make up your kind of operational functionality around these specific things. So don't get too hung up on the definitions if they differ from what you have heard. Your mission and vision statements really is, the mission statement is kind of your reason for existing. So oftentimes you'll see in a mission statement that starts with, we exist to, or our goal is to be doing X, Y, and Z, where your vision statement is something that's a little bit more aspirational. So it's kind of that carrot that you're constantly trying to strive for. And the hope with your strategic plan, everything you do is kind of working towards reaching that state. But the vision statement is probably something that you'll never actually achieve, because it's in kind of that aspirational, ethereal kind of space.
Okay.
Your core values, and I work a lot with small businesses and they're like, core values, we don't have any. Well, you probably do, because if you a small business or a solo entrepreneur, you have core values of your own. And because you are the one that is running the organization, those probably are the core values that are driving your operations. The trick is to get them out and make sure people know about them, because they're talking to your customers and your employees about, this is how we operate. We operate from the space of our values. So always need to make sure that your strategies are aligned with your core values, but also make sure your employees share your core values. They don't have to necessarily match one-to-one, but there should be some connection that is a part of your team and what their core values are. So if you say that we exist to be in the not-for-profit space because we want to bring a caring approach of X, Y, and Z to all of our customers, but you have hired people who have core values of, I want to be rich, and everything for me is about acquired wealth, then you're misaligned, right, between your folks and your core values and your mission. And so therefore, are you going to actually have people that are operating in that same space as you from a values perspective? So we can get into kind of some behavior issues, but that's another conversation. But your core values are definitely part of your strategic plan. So if you don't have them, you do identify them and get them out on paper, because your customers like to see those as well. SWOT analysis. So SWOT stands for, and we'll go through this, I'll give you an example: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is a key part of going through the strategic planning process. And we'll dive into that a little bit deeper in a few minutes. Pillars are also areas that guide your operations. So McDonald's, for example, is kind of used classically for quality and consistency. Now, we can have a differing opinion around the quality about McDonald's, but the quality that they're striving for is that the Big Mac you purchase here in Tahale, Washington, for example, should be the same Big Mac that you get when you go out to the East Coast and every stop in between. And so that quality and consistency would be a pillar of McDonald's. So everything that they do kind of falls under that pillar, if you will, if that makes sense. Okay, so those are kind of some higher level things that are kind of the framework of a strategic planning process. So the strategic plan itself exists of strategies, which are kind of the big rocks of where it is that you want to be within 1, 3, or 5 years that are constantly driving your mission. Okay? Tactics are the things you do to advance your strategies. And goals are things that you do to advance your tactics. So your strategies might be consistent over the course of your 5-year strategic plan. Your goals are probably something that's being done at the operational level that can possibly change every year. So that gets us into cascading goals then, which is how we connect to those things, strategies, tactics, and goals throughout your operations. So if Charity is the CEO of the organization and I am her director, I should definitely know what the strategies are, because I need to be directing my management team around tactics that we're going to do operationally, and the manager should be directing the individual contributors or the team members around the goals. And so that's that cascading structure, so that literally we're all working towards the same things. Okay? And then also it helps to connect us operationally, because operationally, the marketing team and the finance team may need to meet and come up with some tactics and such and goals that they can be working on together that are going to be driving the strategy. So that's why it's so important to get these out and socialize them within the organization. Okay, SMART goals. So when we think about goals, we want to make sure that we have SMART goals. So it's not just a pie in the sky kind of a thing, right? Just bring in more customers. Okay, how? We want to have something that is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So we want to make sure that we're always using SMART goals. And then it's always kind of fun to have a BHAG as well. So if you've never heard of the expression BHAG, it's what is the big, hairy, audacious goal that you want to try and tackle? So that might be more of a 5-year kind of a plan, your BHAG, because it's pretty big, but it's always nice to have kind of that bigger thing, because that's really celebratory worthy when you reach it. So, so I'll pause there and see if there's any questions or comments.
No, this is great. Thank you.
All right, so here is the SWOT analysis, and I can tell you tons and tons of stories of organizations who did not go through a SWOT analysis annually to see where their challenges were. So this is mine. So everything I'm going to show you from here on out is me putting together a strategic plan. So as I move into year 4 now of my own operations, and as I was preparing this presentation, I thought, it probably is time for me to have a strategic plan. And I think that's another myth that we have oftentimes is, well, I'm a small business, so I don't need to have a strategic plan. And I would say, I challenge yourself to put together a strategic plan for yourself. It's the last 3 years I've had goals for myself as I've gotten my company up and running. But I thought, it probably is time for me to have a strategic plan and really look like I am a bigger company than I am, right? Sometimes it's all subterfuge in business, but so the SWOT analysis, here's a perfect example. Your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Your strengths and weaknesses are always internal to your operations, where your opportunities and threats are kind of external to your operations. So having a good understanding of what those are is really going to be one of the linchpins to helping you come up with and identifying some of your strategies. Also thinking about if I have these weaknesses and threats, are there also additional opportunities to rethink maybe some FTE or some employees that I need to bring into the organization? For those of you not familiar with the term FTE, that is full-time equivalent. Or also, is it time for me to stand up a different or a new department in my organization? So for me, knowing that organizational development is a relatively unknown field, it might be an opportunity, or it's a threat potentially that could hinder business development or ongoing business development for me. So maybe one of my opportunities then is to bring in, look at hiring someone who can do sales, who can go out and be that public facing person for me at networking events and really explain and sell what it is that I do. So hopefully that kind of covers the SWOT analysis. So once we have that, we can begin, like I said, to think about what are some of the things that we want to be thinking about in terms of those strategies. So the strategic plan should always be activities that supports your mission. Mine is helping you attract, train, and retain top talent so you can develop the organization of your dreams. So every strategy I do should be driving my mission. And 3 to 5 years, kind of what we talked about earlier. And then my core values, compassion, integrity, and quality. So everything that I want to do, or everything I do from a strategic planning perspective, should have some degree around those core values. Again, so I'm producing high quality product. So I don't want to turn over that area of the operations to just anyone who maybe doesn't share that core value with me. So, okay. And now we're going to move into my strategies then, which I'm at the point where I've had enough income coming in, enough revenue to sustain my operations, but it's time to have enough revenue coming in now where I can get back to the lifestyle I had as a corporate executive. So increasing sales is important for me, especially as I pivot my business from being a coach consultant to a product-based business. So definitely increasing my book sales, Pinterest sales and followers, my Everest experience, integration packages that I have. So those would be all things that kind of come up as I think about increasing my sales, because now as I've brainstormed what that looks like, it's going to drive my tactics. building a team. I need to have a full-time social media manager next year because I have, in addition to everything that I have in Archetype, I have 2 other businesses. And so social media is like, yeah, sometimes I'm really good at it. And then it'll be 2 weeks and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't posted a single thing. So, or I get into that analysis paralysis where it's like, I have so much, what should I be doing? So social media manager for me is, would be a really great strategy for me to have to help build my team. A full-time assistant. I am a terrible admin to myself. My calendar is usually triple booked. I'm terrible with technology, so I really need someone who can kind of keep me on the straight and narrow. Perhaps that salesperson who can go out and be the face of Archetype and really help us small businesses and medium-sized businesses understand the value of what it is that we do. And then one of the areas that I want to build out further is around organizational design. Now, I hate doing organizational design, but there's so much power to it, and I believe in it so much. I want to have someone who can actually step into that role and do it. So those are just a few of my strategies. And then my BHAG, because we always got to have one of those. I want to sell my intellectual property around my integration package. So that's my BHAG. So, okay, I'll just pause for a minute, see if there's any questions, comments, thoughts.
Well, no, I'm just looking at these and wondering how strategies differ from goals, because some of these feel more like goals than a strategy to work. And I just need a little bit clarity about maybe what the difference between those are.
Yeah, and I can see, and I think that's where people get really kind of kerfuffled sometimes, is around the different definitions. So think of the strategy as kind of the macro level. And there's more metrics and things that I could probably put around this. And if I were in a corporate type of sector, someone who probably does the work in strategic planning would probably take a look at these and say, yeah, these could use a little bit of work, but I'm small. And this is a conversation for small business folks who are just kind of diving into this work as well. But the strategies are kind of the larger level. They're the big rocks, right? That you're kind of working towards. The tactics are maybe the medium-sized rocks that are going to be the things that drive those strategies, where the goals are kind of the sand or the filler, and they're the smaller types of things. And as we move into this next slide here, kind of breaks them down into those 3 different areas. So my strategy then is to increase book sales. So the tactics increase podcasts that I'm doing around my 2 books. Try and get my 2 books into at least 2 bookstores, and then do some bookstore appearances where I'm doing some author signing events, for example. So the strategy is to increase the sales. The tactics are podcasts, bookstores, etc. And the goals then, using the SMART methodology, are to identify very specifically 12 podcasts per year. So is it realistic and timely? Definitely timely. Is it realistic? I don't know yet. So, and it might not be, but you can see how we kind of start big here. We kind of narrow it down with the tactics, and then we get much more granular and specific when it gets to the goals. So again, think about this as kind of director level, operational level, and then employee level, if we're kind of putting some people around it. Does that help?
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just leave that up here. So for example, I want to sell 2 of my integration packages and have 2 paid Everest experiences per year. So the tactics are to engage with the SHRM, which is the Society for Human Resource Management, partner with some HR folks who are very just specific to HR, and then continue networking. So can I break those down into more specific SMART goals? Yes, I can do a SHRM membership. Right. So if I had a team member, I would say, okay, your work around this goal is to log into SHRM and figure out how to get a membership, and then maybe go and be the face of Archetype at the SHRM meetings once per month. Okay, okay. So there we go. That is how those kind of look from the strategic, tactical, and goal levels. Okay. And then next steps, get started. Don't feel that you have to be a large organization where you have to produce, like I said, some fancy schmancy document. Most of the larger organizations have a strategic planning, at least one individual, sometimes a team. And so sometimes I think, they have to show their worth by putting together lots of charts and graphs and making it look fancy. But one simple sheet of paper can be enough to get you started in this process so that you have a roadmap and that any of your employees who are also looking for that roadmap know exactly what it is that they're supposed to be doing. Because you, as a business owner, you need to know what they're doing as well, right? So you can have those conversations and say, how's it going? Folks like that kind of structure. They like to come in and work within a structure and know what they're doing and know that their efforts are helping the business as well. So important. So yeah, I would say don't feel intimidated by something that you've seen that is maybe big and looks really intimidating. Just get them onto a piece of paper and begin working the goals that are going to help you achieve those strategies so that you can continue to be in business and fulfill your mission. So there we go. And that's it. Short, sweet, and
yeah. Yeah, that really broke it down. I enjoyed that last slide. Maybe you could bring that up real quick so people can kind of have another look at exactly how you do go from strategy to tactic to goal, and kind of just refining and defining that more clearly so that you can make it actionable and achievable, right? Because that's obviously the way, I mean, starting out with kind of increase of book sales is certainly a pie in the sky, right?
And it's a goal.
Right. And then how do you do that though, really? What steps to actionably take, right?
Yeah. So I would say too, since we still have a little bit of our time here today, Charity, if you're a manager and you're working with employees and defining SMART goals, the art part of SMART is always something that should be done through a conversation with your team member. So you can say the specifics are 12 podcasts. It's definitely measurable. Now, Charity is my team member. Do you think that you can get us booked on 12 podcasts per year? Is that attainable, realistic, and timely? Right. So that's a conversation that you always want to make sure that you can have with your team members as you're going through the SMART goals. So making sure you're going through those together.
Right. And making sure that you're kind of in agreement with those, right? Like, because if they're not on board with where you are ultimately someone's still driving the ship though, right? I mean, to some extent, I mean, you're trying to get buy-in, obviously, to help with employee morale and engagement and, decreasing burnout, all of these things. We're trying to get engagement and buy-in, but ultimately, helping them understand, I guess, how these goals fit into the strategy, the larger strategy picture is kind of where you're trying to help them see that. Is that what you would say if you had difficulty there?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, helping employees to see how they fit into the whole operation. I always like to mention to folks that your organization is not one piece. It's multiple pieces that all have to be working together. And if we don't understand where we fit into the big scheme of things, we might be duplicating work. We might be experiencing conflict because it's like, well, I thought I was supposed to be doing this. And now you're doing it. And so now we're having rub, and that's limiting productivity, and it's not helping us meet our strategic goals by any case. So yeah, making it very clear also is very helpful. And that's where those cascading goals comes in and is very important too. So everyone knows, again, it's kind of this is kind of the sheet music for the organization.
Yeah, I've worked with strategic goals, strategy, human resources development, organizational development a bit in the past, but I don't think I've ever heard it referred to as sheet music. And as a musician, I love that. It makes so much sense. The conductor is there. We're all paying attention, and he makes sure we're starting out at the same beat and that we end at the same beat, right? So that the sheet music explanation really makes a lot of sense to me. So I appreciate that.
All right. And that's pretty much our brief presentation today. So What's next? We have our final session in 2024, which is Oliver Scott from Red Canoe Credit Union. He's going to be talking about reading financial statements. And boy, anytime there's anything financially related, I will be there listening. So
so important, so important. I can't wait to hear that one too. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. That was so informative. And I really feel like you covered the subject matter. It really made a lot of sense. And yeah. And so archetype learning solutions can also help with things like that, right? So if you were a small business and you were like, how do I develop strategy? 2025 is coming. What am I going to do with my business next year? So that's the kind of thing that you can kind of facilitate. Is that right?
I can certainly help with that. Yeah, I would say there's probably more people better qualified around strategic planning than myself, but I've got enough knowledge probably to be dangerous. So hopefully I'm outside of the danger category, but
yeah.
I would say there's probably business consultants who are better defined at this, but I'm certainly happy to help, especially if it's just getting started. And sometimes that's the hardest step, right? Is to just get started. But we are coming up on 2025, the final quarter of the year, and this is a good time to really start thinking about it so you can be ready to hit the ground running in 2025. So
yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Charity. And I'll see you next month.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.